Hi guys, I don't know if I'm back. Um, I don't know if I'm back. Someone tell me if I'm back. Um, I'm gonna give it a sec because I don't know if there's a bit of a delay. I think the stuttering's gone, which is good. So if I am back and it's working, then hey, here we go. Oh, we love to see it. Okay, sweet. Okay, I'm gonna give it like 30 seconds just so that people can join back in. Um, I don't really know what's happened, so yeah, my bad. Um, but it's like my second ever live stream, so I don't know what I'm doing, you know? Um, what we got? What we got? Applications, treatment, psychological problems. Yeah. I'm gonna cover all that stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna try my best anyway. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try my best. I don't have too long though. I really want to cover like the big hitters, things like Isang, stuff that people really struggle with. I'm hoping, guys. I'm hoping. Like I've covered Daniel. Obviously, it's difficult when like just talking at you through a live stream is really hard, and I don't know how helpful that was. But if it's helped you pick up one, two, three extra marks, then it's worth it. Do you know what I mean? Like it might not make you a complete expert not having a proper video, but if it helps you guys pick up even just one mark, it's worth it. I can't tell you how many times that we've done mock feedback with my students and they've been one mark off the next grade. And I bet there's some of them in this chat, and they'll know that the one thing I'll say always is like using the source and things like that, because it's so important, just that one mark. So yeah, me covering a bit of Daniel, hopefully it will help. Right, let's crack on with it. I've done Daniel already. I think it's Eri that's asked. I'm really, really sorry. I have just done Daniel. Maybe I'll like quickly yap about it again later on. I'm going to try and cover most of the studies, most of the theories if I can. And I want to just do the most difficult stuff really. Because yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I could talk a little bit about CBT, but honestly, I wouldn't go crazy about CBT because it's part of the application. So it's unlikely that you'd get a huge question on it compared to a study or a theory, or because it could come up obviously in 13 markers. Um, I'm sorry, Karina. I'll talk slower. Thank you. Thanks for your advice. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this channel is for OCR. Sorry if anyone's joining. This is for OCR. I don't do predictions. The predictions don't work. Like anyone who tells you a prediction. What would you say are the most difficult areas? Do you know what, from experience, I'll say like Daniel, people really struggle with that. People really struggle with Isaac as well. CBT is under the applications bit of psychological problems. So it's under like a treatment of psychological problems. So yeah, if I ask you to, okay, I also want to do research methods. Right, let's stop yapping. Let's crack on. Let's talk about Isaac. So for Isaac, I'm hoping you guys know, I have got a video on Isaac, but I'm hoping you guys know that with Isaac, there are three personality traits that you must know. There's extroversion, psychoticism, and neuroticism. In fact, an easy way to remember it is PEN. So psychoticism, extroversion, and neuroticism. Now, I think understanding the traits you guys are pretty good with. So please make sure you're making notes, guys. So for any of you guys that are here to revise, I promise you, this revision will be way more efficient if you have pen, paper, and you're making some notes as we're going through, okay? So we've got the three personality traits: extroversion, psychoticism, and neuroticism. And you need to know very briefly what the traits are. So extroverts are people who are very outgoing. So these people, you know, they're the life of the party. They're more likely to be to do extreme stuff. Yes, I will. I will do the biology of each of them. By the way, I will. That's going to be the big thing. Yeah. And yeah. Oh, do you know what? I love the fact that some of you are like helping each other in the chat, like answering each other's questions. I love that. Yeah. So, God, what was I yapping on about? Extroversion. So that's extroversion. Then you have neuroticism. Neuroticism is all to do with being anxious, maybe a hint of aggression. So someone who's very anxious, someone who's neurotic is somebody who's quite anxious. And then you have psychoticism, which is all to do with lacking empathy. So if someone wants to steal something from someone else, someone who's psychotic wouldn't care. Like they don't care that they've stolen something. Whereas like we'd probably be there like, oh, I feel really guilty. Like I feel really bad, you know, all that kind of stuff. Guys, I'm going to do Tandoc. Lily, I'll do Tandoc. Don't stress. I'll do it. I'll do Tandoc. It's quite a lot to explain in a message in the chat. So I will cover Tandoc, Lily. Yeah. Okay. So they're the 3 traits. They're the definitions of the traits. Although I think most of you guys are okay with those 3 traits. It's more about the biological explanation of those 3 traits. That's the tricky bit. That's the bit that most of you struggle with. And again, I think the video that I've done kind of demonstrates it quite well, but I'm happy to talk about it here. So extroversion. The extroversion is caused, according to Eysenck, by a reticular activating system that filters out too much information. So the reticular activating system, it sounds fancy, it sounds really scary. The RAS is a little bundle of nerves about the size of your pinky finger, and it goes up your spine, and it does loads, it does other stuff as well. But part of the role of it is that it filters out stuff from your environment, right? And this is how I teach it to my students. So again, any of them that are in the chat, they'll know that I say this. But if you guys, I don't know where you guys are right now, maybe in your bedroom, maybe wherever, but wherever you guys are, you can probably feel like the clothes on your body, right? You weren't feeling it before I mentioned that, but now that I'm saying that, you can feel the weight of the clothes on your body. You can feel the chair beneath you, okay? And you weren't thinking about that before, but now that I've mentioned it, you're thinking about the chair that's underneath you. You can feel the weight of the chair beneath you. Eri, the way that I word it, can I just write RAS in the exam? The way that I word it to my students is I would rather you write it in full and spell it wrong. I love how my students are replying. That's so funny. I'd rather you write it in full and get it and spell it a bit wrong and then put RAS in brackets, rather than just not doing it at all, rather than avoiding it. But yeah, anyway, so all of these things that are going on, all this stimuli that's happening in your environment. So whilst I was just there talking, you guys forgot about the weight of your clothes again. You forgot about the weight of the chair beneath you again. Okay. So that is the RAS that's filtering out all that information. It's the RAS that's choosing, okay, hold on, we need to pay attention to hopefully my voice, because right now I'm making notes. I don't need to pay attention to the weight of the clothes on my body, the chair beneath me, whatever, right? I don't have to think about that right now. So the RAS has that job. Now, according to Eysenck, people who are extroverted, that RAS filters out way too much information. So it's filtering out loads of information from the environment, which means that their cerebral cortex, their brain, the outer layer of their brain, is understimulated, right? So that means that their cerebral cortex is understimulated. It isn't active enough, right? It's bored. And so Eysenck believes that extroverts, because it's understimulated, it's going to... because it's understimulated, they're going to want to do exciting things that are going to, things that are going to excite them. And in this case, he believes that this is extroversion. In this case, he believes that these extroverts are going to try and do risky things, like running away from the police or something like that. Okay, so that's extroversion. In Daniel, did they do the SPECT scan before or after? That's a really good question. Do you know what? Everything that I've ever read about it, it looks like they do it during the tasks, which is really strange. So like they're getting the brain scan whilst they're doing the tasks. Personally, I wouldn't stress too much about the wording of what you're writing. I think you'd get the marks regardless for just referring to a SPECT scan and saying that they do the Wisconsin card sorting task, etc., etc. Okay. So that's extroversion, right? So that's extroversion. We're going to do neuroticism and we're going to do psychoticism now. I'd say that extroversion is the most complicated one. And by the way, you may notice in the textbook as well, extroversion also refers to things like, guys, can we stop like yapping in the chat? Like just yapping to each other. Let's keep this revision-y, all right? With extroversion, you may also notice in the textbook, it refers to things to do with dopamine, so that they have like too much dopamine, which also works, so get your marks in the exam. I like to just stick to the RAS example because I feel like that you'll see in a minute, but when I talk about psychoticism, I talk about dopamine in a minute. So anyway, Neuroticism. So neuroticism, yeah, lock in, guys. Yeah, you just got told off on a. How'd you feel? You just got told off on a live. Okay. So psychoticism is. Psychoticism is all to do with, in fact, no, sorry, I'll do neuroticism first. Neuroticism is probably the most straightforward one, in my opinion. So we all have something called a nervous system. Specifically, we have something called an autonomic nervous system. Now, our autonomic nervous system has loads and loads of different functions, right, that we do. But one of the functions that it does is it regulates our like emotions. It regulates how we react with our environment, that kind of thing, okay? So part of our autonomic nervous system is something called the limbic system. So we all have something called an autonomic nervous system. Part of the autonomic nervous system is something called the limbic system. According to Eysenck, both of those things are overactive. According to Eysenck, both of those things are overactive. That simply means that they are, there's the autonomic nervous system and the limbic system is overactive in people who are neurotic. Now, what that means is that they are highly emotional and potentially more aggressive. And that leads to that anxiety, the anxiousness, okay? Being on edge, being unstable. And that's it. So if you get a question that says something like, outline the biological cause of neuroticism, if you just put, they have an overactive autonomic nervous system, which leads to an overactive limbic system, which makes them unstable and emotional, that's your answer. And that should get you the marks, hopefully. Okay. I'm really sorry, by the way, if people are asking me questions and I am missing anything, then I am sorry. I am trying to catch like as many questions as I can, but I'm trying to talk as well, and I'm awful at doing two things at once. So bear with me. Right, let's do psychoticism next. I'm really sorry, I know a couple of you are asking questions, bear with me. Fresh says, do you have to write about a criticism that links to the question or another criticism? If the question, for example, if the question is about reductionism, do you criticize the theory on reductionism or determinism? Really good question. I would be doing my absolute best to just be constantly referring to that statement. Like any link you can to the statement, I'd be constantly referring to it. So you've said, write about criticism, links to the question, or another criticism. So if the question is about reductionism, I would be talking about reductionism like throughout anyway, and then maybe bring in a little bit of determinism, bring in a different kind of criticism as well. But basically, I think in that AO3 paragraph especially, it's so important that you are referring to the source. Okay, guys, please don't spam. Like it's we need to be keeping it open for questions mainly. Okay. Right. So let's talk about psychoticism next. So we've done extroversion, done neuroticism, now just psychoticism. So according to Eysenck, psychoticism is caused by having too many dopaminergic neurons. So what is the bar? Sorry, just really quickly. What is the bar task? Don't stress too much about the bar task. It's called a sensory motor task. You don't need to know the ins and outs of it. It's something to do with, like movement-based task. You don't need to know the ins and outs of it. And the results of that from Daniel's study weren't very significant. So I don't ever really talk about that. Right. What are some reductionist theories? They are all reductionist, pretty much apart from probably the ABC model, I'd say, is a little bit holistic. I'd say Dweck has elements of holism in there, but pretty much all of them are reductionist. Right, so psychoticism, I need to stop getting sidetracked by people's questions. I will ask for questions in a sec, guys. I'm really sorry if I don't catch all your questions. So psychoticism is caused by having too many dopaminergic neurons. So dopaminergic neurons are neurons that basically regulate dopamine. Now, dopamine is a part of the brain that regulates rewards. So if I was to say to you guys, well done, you're doing an amazing job, you're going to smash it tomorrow. Really proud of you guys for joining a live stream that's about revision in your own time. Like, that's so impressive. So the fact that I've just complimented you guys should release a little bit of dopamine in your brains. And that is something that, according to Eysenck, psychotics love. Like, they need loads and loads of dopamine because they have so many dopaminergic neurons that dopamine has a huge influence on them. Now, what that means is that they need loads and loads and loads of dopamine which comes from anything that involves gaining something, like acquisitive crimes. So anything where they gain something, they'll be really into, they'll try and do. That's where the psychoticism comes from. They'll do anything to get their rewards without thinking about, Lily, without thinking, no, I am proud of you guys. I am proud of you guys. You guys are going to smash it. Without thinking about the consequences, or without thinking about that person, right? Okay. So that's extroversion, neuroticism, psychoticism. That is the three traits. Eysenck believes that criminals have got all three traits. He believes that criminals are really hard to condition. That means that they're really hard to kind of teach out of these traits, or out of these thoughts, or out of being a thingy. No, you do not need to know Jehoda. You do not need to know Jehoda. Someone just said something about Jehoda. Do not learn anything about Jehoda for OCR, GCSE psychology. Maybe for other exams, but for OCR, GCSE psychology, you do not need to know Jehoda. I've already done Daniel. I'm really sorry. I might mention Daniel at some point as well. But I've done Daniel. I've done Eysenck. Eysenck's criticisms, by the way, doesn't take into account individual differences. So, for example, there are people out there who are high on extroversion, high on neuroticism, high on psychoticism, but they are not criminals. My students know that when I teach it, I get them to do I get to do like a mini version of Eysenck's personality quiz, and loads of them come out as extrovert, neurotic, and psychotic, but they're not criminals. So yeah, they just talk over me all the time. That's all. I'm joking. If any of you guys are in the chat, I have no beef. Okay, let's have a look at some questions. I'm going to answer some questions first, and then I'll start talking about a different study. Maybe like Blackwell. Maybe I'll do Blackwell next. Let me try and answer some questions. Right. I'm going to try and do quick fire questions if I can. An example of the answer. Could you give an example answer for if we get a biological explanation of each? Of the pen. Yeah, I'm going to have to do this really quick. And by the way, guys, if I'm ever talking too quickly, which I might be, I will hopefully upload this. So as soon as this live stream is over, in about 40 minutes, I will upload it, so then you can watch it back, and tonight, whilst you guys are revising, you can play it back. So could you give an example answer for if we get a biological explanation on each of the pens? Really quickly, extroversion is caused by a reticular activating system that filters out too much information, and that leads to us having an underactive cerebral cortex, which means that we crave stimulation from our environment, such as risky actions like crime. For neuroticism, it's an overactive limbic system and an overactive autonomic nervous system, which leads to anxious and quite stressful behaviors, like aggressive behaviors. And then for psychoticism, it is that they have too many dopaminergic neurons, which means that they are very reinforced by dopamine, anything that involves dopamine, which means that they really crave gaining rewards, and they'll do anything for those rewards. Ethical concerns from Cooper and Mackey's study, I guess it's just mainly the fact they're underage and they're being deceived, so they won't have fully informed consent. I wouldn't panic too much. There are better criticisms for Cooper and Mackey, like low ecological validity. It's in a lab environment. So think about it, guys. You don't play games in a lab for like 8-minute portions. You play games at home or in an arcade. That's it. So low ecological validity is the better one for Cooper and Mackey. Let's have, my chat's just like moved down. Which studies have low construct validity? Okay, good question. So I'll tell you what, why don't I do validity and reliability now? Okay, let me do the definitions, and then we can talk about which studies have low of some of them. All right, I'm going to do that now. So I'm really sorry. Loads of questions. I'm sorry that I'm missing out on loads of questions. Quick top tips for tomorrow's exam. I'll do that as well in a minute. If you guys can remind me in a sec, I'm quite happy to do that as well. So types of validity to types of reliability. The most important thing you need to remember for validity is A, population validity, which is really easy. I'll explain construct validity in a minute. A, population validity, which is just about the sample. So is the sample representative? Like, is it a good number of people? Are they from varied backgrounds? Is it from varied cultures? Spoiler alert, pretty much everything at GCSE psychology has low population validity. The only one I wouldn't really talk about it for is TANDOC, mainly because TANDOC has quite a lot of participants, but it's still culture bias, so you could argue it's got low population validity. I just wouldn't mention that because there's like other things that you could talk about. You've then got sorry, ecological validity. If I ever zone out, by the way, it's just because I'm trying to read the chat and I can't talk and do that at the same time. Ecological validity is about the environment. So are we doing a study that replicates a real life environment? So to give you an example, Cooper and Mackey has low ecological validity because it wasn't in a very natural environment. It was in a fake environment. Oh yeah, good luck everyone tomorrow. Like whether you guys are just joining or whether you're like coming and going and stuff, like good luck tomorrow. Seriously, you will smash it. Please don't stress, just lock in. You guys will smash it. Piaget has low population validity. You are right, it does, mainly because A, it has a small amount of participants. We don't know the exact number, but just a small group of children from Geneva. And B, they're all from one place. They're all from Geneva. All of them. Can you tell me off a zoning out? Right, stop zoning out. Okay, stop zoning out, guys. Lock in, Olivia. I don't know if that's an Olivia that I teach, but yeah. Right, so we then have construct validity, the toughest one by far. Construct validity is, are we measuring the thing that we are measuring in a scientific way? Let me give you a great example. And I feel like when I give this example, this clears it for a lot of people. So let's say that I was to take you and a good friend of yours next to each other. And I was to say, in fact, no, sorry, you and two of your friends. And I was to say to you, could you pinch your two friends on the arm, okay? And if I was to get you to pinch them on the arm and I was to ask both of them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how painful was that pinch on the arm? And they both go, right, that was an 8 out of 10 pain. That was definitely an 8 out of 10 pain. Would their 8 out of 10 pains be the same? No, their 8 out of 10 pains are going to be different, right? So for one person, 8 out of 10 pain might be really bad. The other person, it might not be that bad, right? So it's very subjective. It's not very scientific, okay? So construct validity, low construct validity just means the study has measured something in a way that isn't very scientific, usually like a questionnaire. So for example, Heaven measured self-esteem. So self-esteem, think about what self-esteem is, like how confident you feel in yourself and who you are. They measured self-esteem using a little questionnaire. And you're telling me that that is an accurate and scientific way of doing it. It absolutely isn't. So that is low construct validity. So most of the time, things that use questionnaires, have low construct validity. Okay. Right. Yeah, use the source, guys. Using the source is so important. Use the source in every question. For any of you who have watched my paper one walking talking mark, you'll know I keep talking about it. Okay, the best criticism for the ABC model by far is the fact that it blames people for developing depression. So what I mean by that is it's basically saying, right, well, if you're depressed, just think about things rationally then. Stop thinking about things irrationally. Obviously, it's not that simple. So that is the biggest criticism for the ABC model. Okay. Yes, in 13 markers in paper 1, can you use studies and explanations from paper 2 and vice versa? You absolutely can do that, 100%. You can. So 13 markers in paper 1, you can. That's actually going to be one of my top tips. Michelle, I am going to do top tips. I'm going to be talking about top tips as we go through. That's one of them for sure. My other big one, which again, my students who are in the chat are going to be fuming at me for because I keep talking about it, is that there are so many... yeah, Maddie is cooking right now. Well done, Maddie. Is that when using the source, okay, use the source is so important. Please make sure you guys are using the source. So every time they give you a little statement, a little like piece of information, keep referring to it, and don't just say their name. Make sure you keep referring to it over and over again. Okay. Oh, thanks, guys. Some people just liked the live stream. Thank you. I'm just reading some of these. Yeah, so the ABC model is deterministic. That's a good question. It's kind of deterministic, but it's, to be honest, it's more towards free will. It actually suggests that you kind of have the choice of whether you are rational or irrational, whether you have rational or irrational beliefs. Again, I've done a video on it where I give you loads of examples, so maybe have a quick look at that, but I think that should help a little bit. It does place too much importance on free will. It absolutely does. So I would say it's more free will. What you have to remember about the debates, guys, is the debates work on a scale. So it isn't just one side or or the other. So when I'm saying to you, oh, it's quite free will, but it's a little bit determinism, that's what I mean by that, is that, you know, it's on a scale, and ABC model, let's say that's free will over here, ABC model would be like there, right? It's really, really far into the free will. And that's a criticism as well, okay? Okay, let's talk about some of these questions very quickly. Sorry, I'm trying to read questions, but the chat keeps going. The chat keeps going. Social drift and social rank. Yeah, I can do them as well. Maybe I'll do. Yeah, I know I need to do more paper 2 stuff. I'm really sorry. I just don't have time. Like, I'm a full-time teacher as well, so I really struggle to get these videos out. The research methods video took I can't even tell you how many hundreds of hours that one took to make. So yeah, it's long, but I am trying. Okay. If the 13 marker asks you to use a study, your other area can be a reference to a theory. No. No. So I'm sorry if I confused anyone earlier. If the 13 marker says you talk about studies, you must talk about studies only. You cannot talk about theories. But you can talk about something from paper 2 in a paper 1 question. And in paper 2, you can talk about paper 1 stuff, but you must make sure that it is a study or like whichever one it's asking. If it's asking for studies, talk about studies. If it's asking theories, talk about theories. AO3 is the evaluation. Yeah, so AO3 is the evaluation. 100%. Okay, I might do the sample. This is sample, method, or procedure. That's a really good question. Method or procedure is pretty much the same thing. Sample kind of falls under that, but I would be really careful. If a question says to you like, outline one criticism of Tandoc's procedure, I wouldn't talk about sample. So I would be talking about, you know, the questionnaires or whatever instead of that. So I'd be really careful about that as well. A correlational study is a study that looks at relationships only. So there is no cause and effect established. So what I mean by that is that we are not actually doing anything. So to give you an example, in Blackwell's study, in study 1, Blackwell didn't do anything. So Blackwell just took these participants and measured their growth and fixed mindsets, measured their math scores, and went to see if there's some sort of relationship there. They didn't actually go and, like, you know, teach them maths in a certain way or teach them anything specific. So that's a correlational study. It's a study which investigates a relationship but does not establish cause and effects. Okay, I do see quite a few people asking about antipsychotics and antidepressants. Very, very quickly, guys. Don't worry about conventional versus typical or atypical antipsychotics. You don't really need to know that. I fear maybe you guys might have been taught in a little bit too much detail there. Don't panic, okay? I don't know if you guys have got the revision guide, but you'll notice in the revision guide, the applications of the applications of psychological problems is actually relatively small. Each explanation is quite small. So don't feel like you need to know loads and loads and loads about each of them, because, you know, this is something that you don't need to know a crazy amount, okay? So I can very briefly explain. Although I will be honest, I really wish I had a whiteboard or a way of drawing something, because I'd love to do like a little drawing right here of a synapse and I'd explain it. But I'm gonna do my best to explain it without a drawing. This is gonna be really tricky though. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Firstly, you have to make sure that you understand what synaptic transmission is. So synaptic transmission is how we pass information from one neuron to the next neuron. And in our brains, this is happening millions of times, all the time, millions of times a second, all the time, right? Now, with people with schizophrenia, we believe there's too much dopamine going on in the synapses. So if these are our two synapses right here, we have in the middle, we'd have loads of little dots is how my drawing would go if I could draw something on here. And these dots are, so what I mean by applications is, if you look at the spec of the course, and what I mean by the spec is if you look at the start of all of my videos, I always show the spec of the course. You'll see the key concepts at the top, you'll see the main bit in the middle with the theories and studies, and then the applications at the bottom. So the applications is what I'm talking about now, okay? The applications of psychological problems, specifically about about how dopamine antipsychotics work and about how antidepressants work. That's what I'm talking about now, Lily, okay? So antipsychotics, how do they work? Well, we believe people with schizophrenia have two. Yeah, how do you not have a whiteboard? I do have a whiteboard, I'm just not in school, okay? We believe that antipsychotics have, I should have brought a whiteboard actually here. That would have been really helpful. Yeah, I should have thought about that. Maybe I'll do that next week for the paper 2 one. I'll bring a whiteboard. Right, so we believe that people with schizophrenia have too much dopamine in their brains, or too many dopaminergic receptors. So if you think of it as these are like the two sides of the synapses, we have one synapse here and one synapse there, or one neuron there and one neuron there. The synapse is the gap in between them. We have to send the message from one neuron across the gap to this neuron. Well, in the middle, you'd have the neurotransmitters making their way across the gap, and they need to bind to the receptor sites that are on this neuron over here. Now, we believe people with schizophrenia have too many receptor sites, too many dopamine receptors specifically, meaning that dopamine has a huge influence on these people, on causing schizophrenia. Now, what that means is antipsychotics, the way that antipsychotics work is by trying to stop those receptor sites from working. They block the receptor sites, okay? Receptors, they take up the neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters, to give you an example of a neurotransmitter, there's dopamine. This is exactly why I wish I had a whiteboard. I'd be able to draw them all, okay? Lily, I love the questions. Please keep the questions coming. Seriously, the questions, don't apologize for questions. Okay. So, whereas, so that is how antipsychotics work. Sorry, I was just doing a little read. That was a millennial pause as well. Just trying to read the chat. So that's antipsychotics, okay? So basically what they're trying to do is stop dopamine from going forwards in a way. Antidepressants, however, they work by trying to stop neurotransmitters from experiencing what we call reuptake, which is basically going backwards. So we want to stop serotonin from being recycled because we want serotonin to go further forward. So we could use something called an SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, that would block the serotonin from going backwards. I really wish I could have a drawing of this up. This is one where you might need to have a quick Google or a quick look at some diagrams, drawings, or little videos, because I think I'll struggle to do it on a live stream, if I'm completely honest, guys. So yeah. I could really quickly talk about social rank theory. Yeah. So social rank theory, let's do that very quickly. Technically I am Gen Z. Yeah, Isabel, I am technically Gen Z. Okay. And I'm very proud of it. Let's talk very quickly about social rank theory. So social rank theory is the way that I always word it to my students is that there are certain, almost all the theories really, there are certain key terms that you should be talking about when it comes to certain questions. So, for example, social learning theory, I really want you guys to be saying words like vicarious reinforcement, vicarious punishment, that kind of thing, okay? For an imitation, internalization, whatever. For social rank theory, please remember the following key terms, really important. I'm going to highlight them now, but these key terms are the ones I need you to be using in any question about social rank theory. So first one is evolution. So the theory is an evolutionary theory. So social rank theory is an evolutionary theory. What I mean by that is it's a theory that comes from the idea of when we were all cavemen and cavewomen, hundreds of thousands of years ago, we used depression as a way of us dealing with conflict, especially when we lose in a conflict. Now, let me just run you through a little story and a little example, and then I'll talk to you about a definition in a sec. So think about it. When we were cavemen and cavewomen, they'd be like an alpha, they'd be a leader of the group. And let's say that I wanted to try and fight that alpha to become the top, but then I lost, then I have two options really. I can either keep fighting, keep going, potentially keep losing, keep causing harm to myself, and creating a bit of tension in the group, or I can back down and accept my lower role. So social rank theory says that kind of attitude is what we now do still. So we now develop, sorry, I'm trying to half read the chat whilst I'm explaining this. So nowadays, we still accept a subordinate role. So that terminology, accept a subordinate role or accept a subordinate rank, is a great wording. Subordinate just means lower. So we accept the lower rank, the lower role, And therefore, we stop experiencing so much loss. We stop experiencing so much, conflict, whatever. Okay. And what that means is that therefore we're more likely to survive, less likely to cause harm on ourselves. So basically, depression is a survival mechanism. It means that we are more likely to therefore survive, therefore more likely to develop more of a social harmony in the group. That's kind of another bit of important terminology. So saying we develop more social harmony is a really important way of wording it. So what I mean by that is that we're more likely to have less awkwardness in the group. And then, that's social rank theory. So social rank theory basically says, to sum up, that we develop, I will do Willingham. Please stop spamming. I will do Willingham, or else you're going to have to... Listen, do you know what? Purple Unicorn, you're going to have to go on a little timeout, pal. A little timeout. Right, there you go. Timeout. You've been told. You've been told off. I will do Willingham, though. Okay. So just to summarize social rank theory before I move on to Willingham, social rank theory says that we develop depression from an evolutionary, it has an evolutionary reason. The evolutionary reason is that when we experience loss or a conflict, we drop down, we accept a subordinate role. We accept the lower role. And therefore we then improve social harmony. So people are less likely to kind of cause any dramas, any issues, and therefore it promotes the survival of the human race. And it's all positive. Would we ever have to label a diagram of a synapse or describe the process? I will never ever say never. I don't want to say no. I would be really shocked if they did that, labeling a diagram of a synapse. But could they do it? Oh, who knows? Describe the process, possibly. It is on the spec, but we've not seen a question like that before. So I don't know what that would look like. We've not seen it before. What have we gone through so far? We have done Daniel, we have done Isenk, we have done types of validity, we've dabbled in bits of criticisms, we've spoken a little bit about 13 markers, and I've just done social rank theory. And I very briefly spoke about the applications as well of psychological problems. We've only got about 20 minutes left, okay? Guys, keep going. You are absolutely amazing. The fact that you're even here on an evening doing revision is so impressive. Like, I'm really, really impressed that you guys are here. So, well done. You will smash it tomorrow, okay? It has kind of come up before, labeling a synapse. I want to say it was in a specimen paper. It could happen, but yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say never, but yeah. Right, let's talk about, what was the thing I just said that I was going to do? Willingham. Everyone keeps asking about Willingham, so I'm going to do Willingham. I keep getting a lot of requests for Willingham. I'm not going to make predictions, guys. I've had a few people. There's no predictions you can make. Trust me, it is impossible to predict. I've tried to do it before and it just doesn't happen. Okay, so Willingham then. Let's talk about Willingham. So Willingham is part of what we call the learning theories of development. Now, development is a little bit of a weird... it's all right. I've had to mute Purple Unicorn because they keep spamming, so it's all good. Social rank theory hasn't come up yet. Social rank theory has been a question. It was an 8 marker. I believe it's the only 8 marker that has ever existed was social rank. Okay. So let's talk about Willingham. Willingham comes under something called the learning theories of development. Now, development's a bit of a weird one because unlike all the other topics that has a theory, and then a study that supports that theory, then another theory, then another study that supports that theory. The development topic has something in the bottom, the second theory, which is called the learning theories of development. And these are split into 2. We have Dweck and we have Willingham. And just like you guys, I think, are proving here, most people are pretty happy with... guys, I'm not ignoring it, by the way. I keep seeing brain development. I'll talk about it. Don't stress. I'm just going through things in like an order that I'm seeing people, all right? Please don't stress. I'm not ignoring. Let the guy speak. Thanks, Ella. So the development... oh, my God. What was I on? I was yapping, and now I forgot. What was I on? Learning theories of development. Okay, so for learning theories of development, we have Dweck, we have Willingham, and most people are really good with Dweck actually. Growth and fixed mindsets, understanding praise for effort, like most people are really solid with that. We then have Willingham, which is the bit that is a little bit trickier. Sorry, Rebecca, Kohlberg stages of moral development, not on the OCR course. So maybe you do AQA, I don't know, but it's not on the OCR course. Willingham said that, so I don't know if you guys have been taught about what they call the learning styles. So there are 3 learning styles that we used to believe that were a thing. And I think the biggest mistake that I see students make is they focus all their effort on the 3 learning styles, which is auditory, visual, kinesthetic, or tactile, right? So auditory, visual, kinesthetic / tactile. The problem is that actually that isn't really that important for Willingham. Willingham just says that those 3 things are useless. He says that they are a myth. We should not be doing those 3 things. Yes, it is OCR. There are some things that might kind of transfer over, that might transfer over a little bit. But yeah, this is OCR. Okay. Yeah, Kohlberg. You don't need to know Kohlberg. Kohlberg is like a half useful thing to kind of understand, but you don't need to know it at all. Like it's not part of it. If your teacher spent ages on Kohlberg, are you sure that they are doing OCR? Sorry, they might be doing AQA. So, question about Willingham comes up. What do you need to talk about? The 3 things are auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. But Willingham says, and this is so important, those 3 things are a complete myth, right? He says that they are not real. We should not be doing visual, auditory, kinesthetic teaching. As a teacher, I shouldn't care. I've got 30 students in front of me. I shouldn't care which ones are visual, which ones are auditory, which ones are kinesthetic. I should just be trying to think about how can I teach. But there are 2 main basically bits that Willingham says. He says we should be 1, teaching based on what's appropriate for the content. So what I mean by that is if I want to teach Spanish, right, I shouldn't be trying to do some sort of visual learning for visual learners in the room. At the end of the day, I'm trying to teach Spanish. That's got to be auditory learning. So it's got to be something that's appropriate to the way that the thing that I'm teaching. And 2, you also need to make sure you understand that he says that meaning is the most important thing for learning. So meaning is the most important thing. What I mean by that is that he believes it's really important that you guys know why you're learning what you're learning. So at the start of all of my lessons, my students see that I put the specification up on the board, which is all of the bullet points of everything we learn, where we are, why we're learning it, and that kind of thing. And I think that's kind of quite helpful to do. So basically, if you get a question about Willingham, make sure you say that he says learning styles are a myth. So those 3 learning styles are a myth. You shouldn't be using them. He says that we should be teaching things based on what's appropriate for the thing that's being taught. And he says that we should be teaching for meaning. So meaning is more important. Those 3 things are what you need to learn or write about when talking about Willingham. So that's Willingham covered. Hopefully that helps, guys. Okay. So what was the other thing? Tandoc. And by the way, I'm not ignoring the... So I will very briefly talk about the stages of brain development. Now, here's the biggest mistake, a big mistake I see students make. And I don't want to say this because I feel like I am the biggest advocate for students trying to get full marks, trying to be the absolute top of the top, right? In my opinion, I think the stages of brain development would... Sorry, I'll come back to that in a sec, but someone just had a really good question. Pranav, you've just said, sorry, this might be kind of out of the current topic. What would you recommend students do tonight before the exam? That's a great question. I would not be trying to stress about learning new things. If you don't know stuff by now, if you've looked over Tandoc a million times and it won't go in, looking over it tonight isn't going to make it go in. Okay, so I'd be looking at things that are something in the middle, something roughly in the middle, where it's stuff that's maybe it's a little bit tricky, you're not 100% confident in, but stuff that you need you don't need to completely reinvent the wheel to learn. That's what I'll be focusing on tonight. And what I'll be doing is little mind maps. It's essential that tonight you're doing things from memory. So trying not to, as in from the top of your head, as in trying not to just read stuff or copy things down. Copying doesn't work right now. Tomorrow in your exam, you're about to open up a paper and you're not going to be able to copy off anything. So at this point right now, you should be doing things without checking notes, without anything. once I go off this live in about 15 minutes or so, you should be grabbing some A3, A4 sheets, doing a mind map about development in a black pen, and then taking a textbook or looking online or watching some of my videos and adding notes in red pen and see, how much is black pen, how much is red pen, and then repeat this later on. That's what you need to be doing. I will do Tandoc. You don't have to keep spamming, okay? Stages of brain development, really quickly. So for the stages of brain development, one mistake that I see students make is, in my opinion, this is just me, I guess, I think students shouldn't be spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours revising the ins and outs of all of the stages of brain development. I really do think that you guys should be relatively... You should know a little bit about each of the stages, but I just wouldn't panic about learning tons and tons. Think of it this way. If you get a 3 marker on the stages of brain development, if you can get 1 or 2 marks there, that's great. We're having a great time, because it is really, really tricky. So I'd remember the 4 stages. So make sure you know them roughly in order. So make sure you know prenatal, childhood, adolescence, adulthood. Make sure you know roughly the ages. So prenatal being before birth, childhood anywhere up to about 12, 13 years old, adolescence from 12 to roughly 19-ish, and then from sort of 20 onwards, we've got adulthood. And then just very brief, basic understanding, like one fact about each, like the millions of synapses are pruned in the childhood stage, or in the adulthood stage towards the later stages, or towards the early stages, sorry, the prefrontal cortex fully develops out to about 23, 25 years old. That kind of thing. Yeah, I agree, by the way. Psych paper 2 being on the same day as maths is diabolical. That is crazy. But I'm really hoping that kind of helps. Like, don't panic about like knowing all the ins and outs of all the stages. Like, grab a textbook, do a little table of the 4 stages, and just learn 1 bullet point for each. And guys, if you get a question that's like a 3 marker on the adulthood stage, and you only get 2 marks out of 3, we're okay with that, because many people in the country are going to get 0 on that kind of question. Okay, so I'm hoping that helps a little bit with that. I really want to do Tandoc, guys, because I know a few of you asked that, and I feel like that's quite a tricky one. But I do need to move on. Okay. Woodsman, thank you. This has been very helpful. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words, guys. What is a social construct? Let me explain that one really quickly. So crime is a social construct because, LD, whoever LD has just answered it. Crime varies from country to country. It also varies over time. So homosexuality used to be a crime. Now it's no longer a crime in the UK, but also different cultures around the world. So things like euthanasia is a crime in the UK, isn't in other countries. So yeah. Okay. And that's part of the key concepts of criminal psychology. Tandoc's fine. Guys, Tandoc is so straightforward. Seriously, please don't panic about Tandoc. But again, for those of you doing revision, it's worth having notes out or having a pen and paper and making some notes about Tandoc, okay? So let's have a chat about Tandoc now. All right. Sorry, I'm just trying to read the chat and trying to read the chat and take in some of the questions from you guys. Okay. So let's do Tandoc. And Blackwell as well. I want to do Tandoc and Blackwell before I go. I think that's my plan, is to do that. No, I have no predictions because predictions for OCR GCSE are crazy. Maddie, you're doing a little question booklet. We love that. We love to see it. Okay. So, do you need to remember the number of participants and ages? Don't panic too much about the ages, especially. Number of participants, 854 for the amount of people that were invited to do the study. 736 participants actually took part. This is Tandoc, by the way. So if you're making some notes, it's Tandoc. Now, do you need to remember that and memorize it? I always say, those of you going for like level 7s, 8s, 9s, ideally, yes. I think that'll be I think that's the best thing you can do. But you don't have to. You don't have to remember all the ins and outs. Like, just remember one of the numbers. I'd remember 736 out of the 2 if I was you. Okay. So, do we need to know how to plot pie charts? Yes, you do. That came up in last year's paper, so please practice it. You don't have to know about the exact proportion of men to women, by the way. Please don't stress too much. But I would make sure that I know just roughly the amount of participants, okay? Please don't panic. But they were all journalism students, all from the US. And what does that mean in terms of a criticism? So if they're all from the United States and they're all journalism students, then one big criticism is... and yes, I can talk about mental health statistic, is culture bias, okay? Do I recommend doing the 13 marker first? It depends. I probably would recommend planning the 13 marker first, to be honest, but that's just me. I think there's a lot of personal preference to that. Okay, so some people, it would be better to plan out to do the whole thing. But for me, actually doing a little plan of the 13 marker, then doing all the paper kind of up to that point, and then writing it might like jog your memory about some stuff, like warm you up by the time you get to the 13 marker. But that's just me. I wouldn't talk about age bias, mainly because although yes, they are all journalism students, there's a better criticism we can talk about in a minute. Okay. Yeah, about 10% of the marks is maths, yeah. Okay, so I do have a paper 2 walking talking mock, but I don't have that much paper 2 stuff. I'm really sorry. I can talk about the mental health continuum, yeah, bear with me, and prevalence and stuff, yeah. How long she'd spend on the 13 marker? To be honest, something around the 18-minute mark is healthy, I would say. Something around the 18-minute mark is about right. 15 to 18 minutes is healthy. I think 18 is probably on the kind of quite a bit end, but I wouldn't spend less than 15 minutes on it. Mia just come in from about 8:05 tomorrow. Right, so TANDOC. I'm doing TANDOC now, guys. The only reason I wouldn't say it's age bias, I'm not saying it's wrong necessarily. The mean age, I think it said the mean age was 19 years old. I could be wrong, but I think it said the mean age was 19. The reason I wouldn't say age bias is because although they are journalism students, it's university. And that means that the ages of the participants could range from there could be 50-year-olds there. There could be, even though the vast majority of them will be that sort of age. I'm not saying you can't say it's age bias, but there are better criticisms, which I'll come to at the end. So anyway, let's crack on with TANDOC. Most important thing about TANDOC is you remember the 3 hypotheses that TANDOC had. So please remember these 3 hypotheses. It is so, so important. So before I do the hypotheses, TANDOC basically wanted to find out if social media can lead to depression. So can using social media lead to depression? In order to investigate this, they did a questionnaire that they handed out online to 736 journalism students in a university in the US. So it is definitely culture bias. Culture bias is a great criticism for it. Probably the best one, really, because it's just simple, straightforward. Okay. Yeah, it can be improved in a natural environment. Cooper Mackey can be improved in a natural environment. Okay, so what are the 3 hypotheses for TANDOC that are really important? 1, TANDOC believes that if you use more Facebook, so Facebook usage would lead to more Facebook envy. So using Facebook more leads to more Facebook envy. Facebook envy is just the idea that you get more jealous about other people. Okay, so you're more jealous about how people are on social media. Like I always say the story to these guys about how on my Instagram, I've got people who are flying out to Vegas. They're having a great time. Other people who don't post at all, don't do anything. So it's really easy for you to get swept up into social media and to get really jealous about other people. Well, TANDOC wanted to investigate if using Facebook more leads to more envy. That's hypothesis number 1. Guys, for those of you, someone just said, I hate TANDOC. Literally, just learn these 3 hypotheses, learn the method, so the fact that they did questionnaires to 736 undergraduate students, and then learn the results. That is all we need to learn for TANDOC, okay? So we're doing the hypotheses right now. Hypothesis number 1, more envy leads to more Facebook usage leads to more envy. That's the first prediction, the first hypothesis. Hypothesis number 2, having more Facebook friends, so having a bigger network on Facebook, leads to more envy. So that was number 2. So hypothesis number 1 is having more use of more Facebook use leads to more envy. And number 2 is having more Facebook friends leads to more envy. Number three is, so you deserve a trip to Vegas after this. Thanks, Sienna. Maybe if my year 11s all like club together, you guys can like, you guys can just club together for a trip to Vegas. I think that would work. Number three, okay, really important. Number three is the more envy we have, the more envy that someone has, the more likely that you are to develop depressive symptoms. It's kind of important that we don't say you're more likely to develop depression, because that's not necessarily true. You're more likely to develop depressive symptoms. Okay. So, just a reminder, with a TANDOC study, you have to remember there are three really important hypotheses. Okay. Hypothesis number one is that more Facebook use leads to more envy. Hypothesis number two is that more Facebook friends leads to more envy. Hypothesis number three is that more envy leads to more depressive symptoms. Don't necessarily say that it's depression, that there's depression. Say that it's more depressive symptoms. And the reason for that is because we can't say that people are depressed. It's just they did a questionnaire to figure it out. So what did? They took all these participants, 736 of them, gave them questionnaires that asked them about their Facebook usage, asked them about their Facebook friends, the network on Facebook. By Facebook usage, by the way, we mean things like what you do on Facebook. Do you post? Do you read people's comments? Do you that kind of thing? And they use Likert scales. So that's like a scale of 1 to 7 to say, oh, on this scale, they agree or strongly disagree, or often or not often. That's how they measured it, basically, which is low construct validity, which is another criticism. So they did a questionnaire to measure all of that stuff, including their Facebook usage, their Facebook envy, so how jealous they get. So some of the questions was like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how jealous do you get looking at other people's posts on Facebook, that kind of thing. And then, guys, you're all getting 9s. All right, you're all getting 9s. Come on, nothing but 9s. You're on this on this chat. You're gonna smash it. You'll be fine. Okay. So they did a questionnaire, and then part of the questionnaire was also to find out their Facebook friends, how many friends they had and stuff, and then also their depressive symptoms. So, do they have depressive symptoms? Yeah, Disco Cop got there. Yeah, Likert scale. Okay. So, I love the fact that you guys are like helping each other in the chat. That's so lovely. That's actually so nice. And by the way, I will do another one of these again next week for paper 2. Okay, I'll do another one for paper 2 next week. So, Mia, if everyone in year 11 gets a 9, I'll shave my head. If everyone in year 11 gets a 9, yes, I will. Okay. If you get a 9, I'll buy you the whole Nando's restaurant. Karina, I'm going to get you that 9. All right, I'm going to make sure of it. All right. So anyway, the results of TANDOC study. So what are the results of TANDOC study? The results basically are that the first hypothesis was supported. So yes, according to TANDOC, the more Facebook use, the more likely you are to develop Facebook envy. Then the second hypothesis was not supported. Okay, so that means that you are not going to, according to TANDOC, having more Facebook friends does not lead to more envy. And then finally, the third hypothesis was supported. So the more envy that someone had, the more likely it is that you develop some depressive symptoms. Now, it is what we're predicting for the 13 marker. There's no predictions, guys. There's no predictions. Okay. So, basically, what can we conclude? Indirectly, Facebook usage does lead to depression. Indirectly, okay? Or depressive symptoms, according to TANDOC. And that's TANDOC study. That's it, guys. That's it. Are we a little bit more confident on TANDOC? Can I get some yeses in the chat if you are more confident on Tandoc? Because then it will feel like it's working and it's going in. But that's what you need. 3 hypotheses. Make sure you're happy with the 3 hypotheses, as in their predictions. That's what they predicted. Then a little bit about the method, and then a little bit about the findings of it. Okay. The live, I'll be honest, I said I would go off at 6:30. So I am going to be going off very, very shortly. But yeah. Okay, we love that. We love that. Thanks, guys. Okay, we love the yeses. We love the yeses. Okay, so what did I say I was going to go? What should I say? What should I go for? I can't remember what I said that I was going to cover before I went off. ABC model, I've done ABC model a little bit. Have I done the ABC model? So the ABC model, there is a video on it, but very briefly, the ABC model says that people become depressed because they have irrational thoughts. So please make sure you use the words irrational thoughts. Okay, Blackwell, very quickly, guys. Blackwell, most important thing you need to remember, it's a correlational study. Blackwell study used children from a school in America. Please remember that because it's culture bias. I'm going to do Blackwell very quickly because it's culture bias. I will also quickly do mental health continuum. I'll try and cover as much as I can. Okay. By the way, I have a full video on Blackwell, guys. I have a video on Blackwell. So if I go through Blackwell too quickly, just jump on the video and you can watch that. All right. In fact, I'm going to cover Blackwell really quickly because of the video, because the other stuff I don't have videos on. So very, very quickly, Blackwell conducted a study into whether having a growth or fixed mindset can lead to better grades in maths. It was a correlational study, which means that Blackwell didn't actually do anything in study 1. To make it really straightforward, they took their math scores in 7th grade, they measured their math scores throughout 7th and 8th grades, and they then analysed their growth and fixed mindsets using something called a motivational questionnaire. And basically what they found was that people who had a growth mindset, they were more likely to have higher maths, improvement in math scores, basically. And then finally, really quickly, guys, no beef, please, no beef in this chat. All right. Yeah, bro, self-promoting. I guess I am, but it's more just, it's not about self-promoting, guys. It is simply that I want to use this time to talk about stuff that I don't have videos on. So you can just watch, do you know what I mean? Like you can just watch the video after I've gone off, basically. So yeah. And basically what they found in Blackwell's study was simply that they had, so study 1 was 373 participants, study 2 was 99 participants. And yeah, top tips. Okay, last minute top tips. The ABC model, really quickly, it just says that people develop depression because they have irrational beliefs. So when you guys have something happen to you, you have 2 choices. You either have a rational or an irrational belief about that thing, and that can lead to an irrational or an irrational consequence. Again, I do have a video on ABC model. And so what that means that people with depression, according to the theory, they are more likely to have more irrational beliefs. Okay. It was a longitudinal study, Liv. Yeah, Blackwell was a longitudinal study. So Blackwell was longitudinal. And then mental health continuum, really quickly, guys, all the mental health continuum is just saying that mental health is not is not an on or off switch. You don't like have depression or don't have depression. It's a scale, it's a spectrum. And so some people are on that spectrum. You know, mental health is like a roller coaster. There's ups, there's downs, there's good days, there's bad days. This is the mental health continuum. That is what I'm talking about, is the mental health continuum. For those of you that are just saying, why did I not find this before and all this stuff, I'm going to hopefully upload this live stream. So this live stream should be uploaded in the next 15 minutes after I turn it off. So once I turn this off, I'll upload it about 15 minutes later, hopefully. Okay. Social drift theory, really simple. 2 things that you need to remember for social drift theory that are really important. It's the fact that, 3 things technically. And this is a really important statistic for those of you asking about the incidence of mental health or asking about the prevalence of mental health or the prevalence of schizophrenia. The 2 statistics you must remember are that 1% of people have schizophrenia, or the prevalence of schizophrenia is 1%. And this is a really important one. People with schizophrenia are 5 times more likely to be in the working class than other classes. Now that phrase there, needs to be, that would be my opening sentence in a question about social drift theory. So social drift theory, I'd be saying, so social drift theory tries to explain why people with schizophrenia are 5 times more likely to be in the working class. That'd be my first sentence. And then I'd just say that Lily, that is right. So then I'd just say that the big thing with social drift theory is that it suggests that people with schizophrenia, firstly, they disengage from society because of maybe some of their symptoms. Then society rejects them. Then therefore they disengage more about society. They're from society. Then society rejects them even more. And there's a cycle that keeps going and keeps going. And this leads to them going down in social classes to the working class. So I'm really hoping that helps for social drift theory. Mental health statistics, again, guys, there's not that much that I can talk about. I mean, textbook has got loads and loads on there. I remember marking this question at some point, and there was a 6 marker about prevalence of mental health. With that, you've just got to provide some statistics. So saying 1% of people, the prevalence of schizophrenia is 1%, that's worth 2 marks. So, guys, I am going to okay, tips, last minute tips, really quickly. I'm going to end on last minute tips. Firstly, let's say you are sat in that exam. You open up the paper, okay, and you get a question about criticizing a study. So that's a study. I've done social rank theory, Lily, very briefly, but I did social rank theory. Open up, let's say there's a study to criticize a study. A go-to, and guys, by the way, if you know an answer, stick to your answer. But let's say you feel like you're cooked, right? You open up the paper, your heart sinks, you go, oh my God, I can't remember a criticism of this study. Then you can say, oh, 2,000 subscribers. Oh, nice. Oh, thanks, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Oh, that's really lovely. Sorry, I'm really bad at getting distracted by the chat whilst I'm talking. So let's say you open up the paper, you see a question that says criticize a study. You literally cannot at all think, oh my God, I can't remember. If in doubt, put culture bias, because most studies are culture bias. Okay, so that means that that you should pick up a mark there. If you want to be really, really risky, you can say that it's culture bias because it's culture bias because it's from America. Because I think out of like all of the studies, 75% of them are in America, so you might get some more. Might get some marks, but I don't know. It's a risky one. I will say, guys, just really quickly, if you are going to use that bit of advice, I would rather you try and pick a criticism you do know. Only use that if your mind goes blank in the exam. Now, if you get a question that says theory, criticize a theory, so criticize social learning theory or criticize whatever, and again, you've got it open and you've got the paper open, you're going, oh my God, like I've got no idea. Put reductionism. Reductionism is really, really good. Maddie, you're getting a Nando's for tea in honor of us doing GCSE, working hard, and I think, oh, you're saying that I should get a Nando's. Maybe I will. That's actually a really good point. Maybe I should get a Nando's for dinner. Right, let's say you open up the paper. You've got a question that says criticize a theory. The go-to is reductionism because most of them are reductionist. Okay, so I think that's a really an easy one to do. Okay, a really easy one to do. Any questions about that? So they're just a little bit of advice there. Other advice, use the source. Guys, if there's ever a source, if it ever says like, Bob does this, and then, so if there's a question like, Bob does this, I'm trying to think, like, Bob's committed a crime, what sort of punishment could we use? Make sure you are referring to that specific crime, like constantly referring to Bob, like over and over and over and over again. Please make sure you're doing that over and over again. Like refer to the source, refer to the statement. Another bit of advice. Again, all of this is in my paper 1 walking, talking mock video. The research methods section always has a little source at the start. I'd grab a highlighter, guys, and I'd highlight 2 or 3 words that you're going to use in all of your answers. Okay, this is a tip for research methods. Someone just asked a tip for research methods. This is my biggest tip, but this is number 1 by far. Grab a highlighter and highlight 2 or 3 words that you're going to use over and over again. For example, if the question says something like, you've been asked to investigate a correlation into whether happiness affects exercise levels or exercise levels affects happiness, I'd be highlighting the words correlation, exercise and happiness. And in every single answer, I would try and put in the words exercise and happiness to make sure that you get the marks in research methods. Now, in research methods, it's 18 marks per paper, so that's 36 marks total. Out of those 18 marks, 6, 7, 8 of those marks are usually just for a source. So it's really, really, really important that you guys are using sources constantly. Okay. Advice for AA3, as I say, I would stick to culture bias for studies. All the studies are culture bias. All the studies have problems with population validity, pretty much. So I think that's a really easy one. And then advice for AA3 for theories. All of them are reductionist, apart from ABC model, which is a bit shaky. But pretty much all of them are reductionist. Pretty much all of them are deterministic. So use that. And in my paper one, walking, talking mock, I think it was, I mention I've got a little template of how I would write about reductionism. So I would have a watch of that. It's something like, instead of saying blank is reductionist because it doesn't take everything into account, I would say blank is reductionist. So social learning theory is reductionist because it takes something really complicated, such as crime, and simplifies it down to just observation and vicarious reinforcement. It doesn't take into account reductionism, for example. No, it doesn't take into account biology. Freud technically is reductionist to an extent. Freud, I see what you're saying. It's less reductionist. It is less reductionist, but it is to an extent still reductionist because Freud it doesn't take into account a huge range of factors. I wouldn't say that it's like the most reductionist. Like, you're right. Remember, all of the debates are on a scale. Okay, reductionism being all the way on one side and holism being on the other. I would put Freud more towards the middle, but it's still on the reductionist side. It still doesn't really account for a lot of stuff, I would say. Right. Any final questions? All right, guys, I'm going to have to go actually before I ask any questions. I've been here 15 more minutes than I said I would be. I'm doing this for you guys, so hopefully this has been really helpful. I'm going to upload this on here, but pop some good looks in the chat, guys, for everyone. Everyone needs to wish each other good luck for tomorrow. Anyone saying that you guys are cooked, you are lying, okay? You guys are going to smash it. You're going to get 9s. You're all going to be amazing. So please, can you put some good looks in the chat for everyone for me so that everyone is getting some good luck ready for tomorrow morning. I have lots of videos, guys, so hopefully the videos will help you. Please go back and watch them. Grab a pen and paper, make some notes, etc. But thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you for all the interaction as well in the chat. Like, you've been so helpful. Like, you've all been helping each other. Like, no toxicity. It's been really positive. We love to see it. I'm hoping this time next week I can do the same thing for paper 2. All right, I can do the same thing for paper 2, hopefully. So I am going to be stopping the call in a sec, the live stream. But thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate it. And yeah, keep up the positivity. Keep up the positive vibes. And also, if I don't teach you, like, leave a little comment on some of my videos and tell me how you did. Like, on results day, let me know how you did or how you felt it went. Let me know. But thank you guys. The best of luck. I wish you all the absolute best of luck. I hope you open up the paper tomorrow and it's just beautiful questions that you guys know inside out. I hope that it's literally everything you've ever wished for. So good luck. Good luck, good luck, good luck. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. See you later, guys. Have a good evening. Good luck tomorrow. Bye, 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 bye. Bye. Thanks.